Welcome to another Birdies conversation, where we talk about the art of being your authentic self. Angel City has partnered with Birdies on this talk series to discuss important topics to help women and all people rise up both personally and professionally. I'm your host, Chris Fajardo, Director of Community Impact. Let's get right into it and introduce you to three amazing people who are living, breathing examples of who have embraced who they are and have cultivated the art of true authenticity. So I'm going to ask everyone to share their name, preferred pronouns, and if you were a color in the pride flag, what would you be and why? So let's start with DiDi.
Hi, I'm DiDi Hadicic. She, her are my pronouns. And I like orange because golden hour and sunsets are my favorite time.
Oh,
That's
same.
good.
Love that. Welcome, DiDi. Liz.
Hi everyone, my name's Liz. Pronouns are she and her, and I promise I'm not copying you, Dee Dee. But I was also thinking orange, and I feel like I'm gonna show off a bit of knowledge now. That the orange in the pride flag actually stands for healing, and I think that coming out and living in my identity has been like super healing for me. So orange, but also golden hour, but also orange.
I love it. We can double up. That's okay. And then Fish.
Fish, pronouns they, them, and I will not go with orange because there's no follow up to those. Um, Blue, I love the ocean. I try to be like flowing like the ocean with life, so I'm definitely going to go with blue.
I love that. Ironically enough, I was going to say blue as well, but I'm more about like the tranquil, calming
Mm,
force and like the how vast it is, but like how much is
mm.
still unknown. I love that world. So thank you. Well, so let's get right into it. DiDi, what an amazing season you've been having so far. And, just thinking back on earlier this month, we had our Pride game, our Pride night. And I'm curious for you, what was that experience like?
It was awesome to one pack our stadium, which I'm still gonna say we have the best fans in the NWSL. So to pack our stadium, but to also see the diverse community and people come together, I think that is a beautiful thing to me. So a lot of emotions, but very good and powerful emotions, and I'm just blessed to be here.
Mm, I love that. It was agreed. Like it was such an amazing night, and the fans, we might be biased, but incredible, like one of a kind.
I think it's also like fun to see like the little kids supporting and representing, and like that's what I love to see, a little girl with rainbow paint on her face. That's awesome.
Mm, that's so fun. That's great. Well, and Liz, so you're joining us from across the pond. Can you tell us a little bit about the incredible organization that you're a part of?
Yes, so I am director of programs at Stonewall. Stonewall is Europe's biggest LGBTQ plus human rights organization. So we work across loads of different fields, business, industry, but also sport, which is in my team, education, so schools, and we run a bunch of campaigns as well, all with the aim of creating a world in which LGBTQ plus people are free to be their true selves. That's our tagline. And yeah, it's an absolute dream working there. Managed to come to LA earlier this year to hang out with the Play Proud program over at Angel City. So it's nice to be here on this conversation tonight as well.
Oh, thank you so much. We're so glad that you're here. And Fish, digital host, student, teach us everything. So excited to have you here with us today. So thanks for coming.
Awesome to be a part of this crew for sure.
Now, DiDi, I heard there was a recent photo shoot where the producer asked you to smooth out your ponytail, and your response was, "You see, what you see is what you get with me." So I'm curious. I gotta know. Like, have you always felt this way? Did it take you some time to get to this place? Like, what? Tell me more. Gotta know.
Yeah, I've always kind of been this way. I I don't really like to be pampered. I don't need the makeup. I don't want it. So media day was very comical when I walked in and they're like, "So do you want to get your hair done? Do you want to get your makeup done?" I was like, "Nope, I'm good. What you see is what you get. I'll put on a good smile and that's it." So I've always been this way. I don't need to hide anything. So yeah, that was me.
I love that. Well, so let's put that Liz Fish. Like, have what about your thoughts on just like yourselves, like being your authentic self? Like, have you always felt the way that you do? Like, what's your journey been like?
You know what? Like, I reckon as a kid, like when I was really, really little, for sure. My mum just used to let me dress myself. Like, I'd wear all different colors. I mean, it was the 90s as well, so it's kind of like the point back then. And then I think, like most young people, when I got into high school, so when I hit about 11 years old, 12 years old, that's when I started to like smooth out those edges and be less authentic. And it took me a super long time to then feel connected to my authentic self again, I reckon. Like, probably until my early to mid 20s, I'd say. So it's definitely been a journey for me. And my queerness and my identity has kind of come dipped in and out of that over the course of my life. And I think back to that, wild little 5-year old that would just be running around and just jumping off things and just not having a care in the world what anyone thought of them. And now I feel like I can connect to that inner child again, but it's been a real, real journey to get there. And I feel the world and society kind of grinds you down, to make you not be your true authentic self, which is really, really sad. So yeah, so that's been my journey. So in answer to your question, definitely not.
Yeah, that's interesting. Was there a moment or something that you can pinpoint or a memory that you have that you remember that changing, like
As
things
in no,
shifting,
no longer being authentic.
or moving more towards a place of being more authentic, like tapping back into that childhood freedom that you felt before.
Yeah, yeah. So I'd say probably the couple of years after I graduated university, or like graduated college, I guess. I had done a degree. I'd done a degree in zoology, so like life sciences, and had decided at the end of it that although I really, really loved it, I really wanted to work with people. And so I went to work in a bar for a couple of years, which was like not the pathway that I thought I was going to be on, but I absolutely loved it. It was amazing. And I think having to start again a little bit after having been through school, been through education, and then deciding my own terms of where I wanted my life to go, I think that was the moment where it became too high stakes to just not be myself.
Mm,
And I think at around that age, so I would have been about 22, 23. That's also when I started to question my sexuality and then come out. And so that as well, it became such a loud voice in my head of being like, I have to deal with this thing, I have to go on this journey. That then led to being my authentic self, and then led me into my career actually, which I'm really grateful for. So yeah, I definitely post university, shaking off those teenage years. I think that was when I felt connected to my true self.
mm, beautiful. Finish. What about for you?
Very similar in the sense of when I was young, you're connected because you don't really know anything else outside of your own inner world, and you come out free. In a specific moment when I was around, I think sixth grade, hanging out with some of the friends, I always hung out with guys in the neighborhood, and they were speaking about the girls that they liked in our class, and nobody mentioned my name, and I was just like, oh, why not? And they were like, well, you're more like an it, and that just like went in. And I remember I went right home and I was like, Mom, I want to be a girl. Like, and I just grew my hair out. I wore skirts from then on out. Like, I just did a full image of a girl, until like mid 20, like my sophomore year of college is when I was around outside of my conditioning in a new world. My teammates, I had some queer teammates, and then ended up like catching feelings for one. And that was the first time I was like, started to break that down and see what was really going on inside, and then had the support of my team to explore it. So
Yeah, Fish, I just want to piggyback off that. I would say high school was kind of like I didn't feel comfortable, like ready, because I felt like in high school, middle school, high school, we were going to be judged, and that's just the vibe that I got. But I would say college was where a whole new world was opened up, where one of my best friends was bi, one of my other best friends was gay, and I was just like, I can be comfortable and I can fit in with you. And I remember telling them first, and they were so chill and open about it. They were like, Deeds, we know it's fine. Like, and that's what I love. I'm like, okay, well, I thought this was going to be harder than it was. But yeah, I would say college, like, it's a different world. But yeah, I love that. Both stories. I love that.
Well, so with that, I'm curious, like, what is it about the college experience that makes it a different world? Because same for me. Like, college was when I started coming out, and it was definitely a whole process. And there was those I was lucky enough that were just like, we know, like don't worry about it. And then those that were a little bit harder. So I'm curious for each of you, maybe DiDi, if you want to start, like what was it about the college experience that made things so different?
Well, high school, I was in a predominantly all white school. Um, and going into college, I was surrounded by African Americans, Native Americans, gay, bi, trans. Like it was more diverse. And I think that's where I was able to be like, okay, well, I like this. Like, and I could see where I could kind of engrave my path within the people that I was surrounded by. So I think for me, college was just more diverse and people were more open and accepting to who I was.
Mm, that's great. Liz, what about for you?
So this is so interesting because I think I kind of had the opposite experience in that my high school was like predominantly white. Like I was literally the only person of color in the school, but was really working class, like state school. And then the university I went to, or the college that I went to, was a whole different world for me. Like everyone was from a private school, everyone was from the south of England, I'm from the north of England, and so I assimilated hardcore. Like I was in there, I was
Mm,
wearing like Hollister and Jack Wills, never worn those brands before in my life, and I was head to toe in it, like absolute preppy as you could imagine, because I didn't want to be found out at all. And so my university experience was a lot of hiding my authentic self. And then it wasn't until I worked in that bar that I mentioned, where my boss was a lesbian, my co-worker was also gay, and I worked with a trans woman, and it was in the middle of Liverpool city centre. It was actually it like branched onto like the LGBT quarter in Liverpool. And so I was just thrown into this world where suddenly the representation was around me that I'd never really had before, off the back of 3 years in what was actually quite a conservative institution, doing a degree that I didn't really want to do by the end of it. And then
mm,
that, it's similar experience to you, Deeds, actually, but just not in a college kind of like wrapper. It was just like in a different place, like in a bar. So similar experiences for sure, but so different. Just wasn't tied to the institution, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, and I can kind of relate to that, Liz, because my culture is European. So I
Uh-huh.
come from a European background, Bosnia. I was born there, and it's frowned upon. So I know that was a very tough combo that I had with both of my parents, where it was like a bit of a culture shock to them.
Yeah.
So
mm.
Wow.
Well, so let's talk about that a little because I think, we've used the word authenticity a number of times already. And so the idea of being whatever your true self is. And so I'm curious, like, what each of you see, and maybe Fish to go to you first, like, what are the pros of being your true self, but what are some things that you might have to struggle through or be confronted with in coming to who your true self is?
Yeah, I mean, recently, and it's been 100% from my experience with Angel City and like getting to know, I think both of your stories of when you felt okay to explore it, it was visibility, like seeing somebody you could resonate with in some way. And that happened with, our community here. And I met a lot of different non-binary identifying humans, and that opened my eyes. And so I recently got claimed that within myself. And I think I've known that all along, but just didn't have language for it. Um, and as soon as I decided it internally, it was just like the most freeing feeling of like, oh, there you are. Like I could figure it out like internally. And the cons, and I don't know if it's cons or challenges, is how to exist in that fully all the time now, and relearn. Like people around me are relearning, and our team has been beautiful and helping with that and supporting. But internally, it's a shift of mindset, and I have to have some difficult conversations. I don't like confrontation, and when I came out to one of my mentors, and she was great about, she's like maybe 60-year-old lesbian couple. They were very receptive to it, but her resistance was in, oh, that's great. Like, but do I have to do the they them pronoun thing? Like, that doesn't really make sense in English. And I was like, I don't want her to feel uncomfortable. I don't want to impose on her. So I was like, oh, do whatever you want, like I don't, like I just stumbled. Like I didn't know how to face that in a way of like, I love you and I appreciate you trying, but I also would like you to try this way. So I
Mm,
think that's my struggle right now. And again, not a con, just a part of the evolution, and that coming into authenticity and then helping people grow around you too.
yeah, like I definitely feel so. Like in my experience, I come from a Latin household. So my dad grew up in Nicaragua, moved here when he was 18. And coming out for me was definitely a process because I wasn't sure how he was going to respond. And he's super religious. And so I was fearful. And I think, Fish, to what you were mentioning, like I like, wore these masks to what I think protect him from being able to, to be my true self. And again, like I wouldn't say it's a con as much as it was like a weight. Just the every day, going through motions and second guessing every single action because I didn't want to change what he might think he sees in me. And it's exhausting, like just truly, truly exhausting. So I'd say in my experience, like being my authentic self was the most freeing, liberating thing. And like, it's still a process. Like it definitely is not perfect by any means, but I just felt like there's this weight and this mask that had so much weight that I was able to take off, which made such a difference. DiDi, you said that you also come from family, that the process was hard for coming out with your family as well.
Yeah, I was actually, mine was just like out of the blue. I don't know why I sometimes do things quickly out of the blue. I remember it perfectly. February 14th, I was in college. I think it was my sophomore year. And I was walking across campus, and my dad's like, "Hey, so what are you doing tonight?" I was like, "Going out with my girlfriend." He was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah." So what had happened was, I'm going out with my girlfriend. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, it's been a few weeks now. Like, and he's like, "Okay." And he actually, like, at one point, he's like, "I need to get off the phone, take a minute." And he calls my sister, and my sister tells me everything. And she called me after she got off the phone with him and goes, "When were you going to tell me?" I was like, "Okay, what? What are you talking about?" She's like, "When were you going to tell me you were going to, just kind of throw it out there that you were dating a woman and to mom and dad?" And I was like, I don't know. It just kind of happened. She's like, "Next time, sit me down so I can sit them down and prep them for this." Um, and she told me perfectly, like the exact convo with my dad was, he was like, "Did you know?" And my sister was like, "Did I know what?" And he goes, "That D was gay." And she goes, "Dad, how'd you not know?" And so that was pretty much my opening up thing. But the hard part was my mom and I used to always talk every day. And we didn't speak probably for about 3, 4 weeks after my dad had to open up and tell her. Um, but the same day, my dad called me right after and he goes, "I love you. I accept you. I'd love to meet her. Let me know and I'll see you this weekend at your game." And I was like, "Cool, Dad.
Mm.
Thanks." So my dad was more open and understanding. And yeah, my mom, not so much, but we've actually gotten to a very great place now. My dad passed away in 2015. So my mom and I have become so close to the point where now she actually asks me about who's in my life and what's going on, which I love now.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sorry about your father.
It's okay.
Liz, I'm curious, like, for you, how is like your interactions with coming out and people in your lives?
Yeah, I mean, those are two beautiful sharings and like resonate with them both a lot. So thank you so much. So funny. So my dad passed away when I was 21. So I never. Well, I mean, I hadn't even worked it out in myself yet at that point. So he never knew. And my whole dad's side of the family are super religious, like Pentecostal Christians. So we have this very unspoken conversation where they know what my job is, but we've never talked about my sexuality, which is quite
Mm.
ridiculous. Well, not ridiculous, but it just is what it is. Like it's just
It's interesting.
don't ask, don't tell kind of vibes. And then with my mum, so my mum's side, so my dad's side are all Caribbean, my mum's side are all Irish. And with my mum, who I'm super close to, she brought me up pretty much as a single parent. I thought it was going to be easy breezy, like this is going to be great because she's like my best friend, and it totally wasn't. Like the Irish Catholicism, like it jumped out and it blew me away. I just really wasn't expecting it, and we had a period of time similar to you, Deeds, of where it was maybe a bit longer than 3 or 4 weeks. I think it was about 3 or 4 months where we just didn't speak. We used to speak every day. And then it took probably a good couple of years to rebuild our relationship. And now my mum and that whole side of the family are super supportive, which is amazing. But took a long time and a lot of like what you were saying, Fish, around like, oh, it's okay, like we don't have to talk about it, or like I'll take this little hit to make you feel better. And I think like as people that are part of the LGBTQ plus community, like we do that so much because, you know, we're conditioned in a way to make everyone else feel better, because I'd rather you just not see me so you don't want to harm me or you don't want to interrogate me, and I'll just fly under the radar and just do my thing. And it shouldn't be like that. Like, I mean, it's Pride Month, right? Like, we should be out loud and proud. And it also, when we tie it into the idea of authenticity and when we can be authentic, I also think we need to cut ourselves some slack, because sometimes it's not safe to be completely authentic. Like, sometimes it's just straight up like not what you want to do, you know? Like, hate crime's on the rise globally. So when you're out and about, it can feel super unsafe to be authentic, actually. And I think holding some of yourselves back in those moments is still that hit to yourself and like almost to your soul in a way. But I think we can be easy on ourselves, and we have to do that because it isn't our fault, and we shouldn't, you know, further kind of shame ourselves by then feeling bad about it, because sometimes that's just how life is.
And to piggy off of that
It's
too, I
so
think,
well put. Yeah.
Chris, when you were saying like pros and cons, and I think a pro of living, you know, your true self is you help everyone else grow around you. Like if we stay in these small boxes of the frameworks we've been taught and we don't challenge it, if we feel, you know, something inside, then everyone will have to stay fitting in these boxes. Like
Hmm.
with my mom, we stopped talking for like 6 months and we were tight. And when I asked her 6 months later, like, we don't talk, like, what's going on? And she was stuck on the image. She had an image of me being with a family of, you know, a man and us having great vacations together and stuff. But I was like, Mom, that image, like, it doesn't look the same, but it'll feel the exact same. And so I think so much of our life is like what things should look like. And, you know, by expressing yourself in a way that may be different helps people let go of those images that have been so ingrained too. So I think there's a lot of growth in these harder conversations that we get to catalyze, I guess.
Fish, that speaks to me so much. You know, when I came out, I think it's somewhat similar to you. So I was literally had just got home for the summer for my sophomore year of college, and I told myself like, if they ask the question, like no hope, I'm just gonna answer it like straight out. And it's the first night my mom comes in, like asks me some rant. I don't even think it was like on topic, and I was just like, "Gay, gay." she's she's like, "Okay." Walked out of the room, came back in. She's like, "You should go on a walk." And that summer, at 3 months, every evening we went on a walk. And Fish, to what you mentioned, for her, there was a lot of tears like through those 3 months. And what it was for her was breaking down this image and these hopes that she had like built up for this life that she saw for me. And in reality, like that image was evolving. It wasn't necessarily changing, and it was just her having to change how she was looking at it that made such a difference. But it was a process, and so to go through that with her was a lot and exhausting. Well, so there's, you know, thrown out this idea of fake it till you make it, dress for the job that you want, not the job that necessarily you have. And those things are often hard, you know, when talking about advancing your career. And I'm curious, like, you know, as we talk about your authentic self and being true, like, when is it okay to put on this mask and like be this other person? And when is it that you need to reflect more of like who you are, like in the world around you? Maybe Liz
Yeah.
could jump for you. Yeah.
Such a good question. I think like it's about that. I always think of it as, what is the deal that you're willing to make with yourself, of how much of yourself you're going to kind of lose or smooth down or not connect with in order to get to the next part. And for, you know, for some people they're like, you know, whatever, like sell myself out, I don't care. But I think for a lot of people, it's that's a hard question, and you shouldn't have to, right? And I guess the way I kind of get around that, this fake it till you make it, dress for the job you want, that whole thing, is that it's totally okay to do that if you still feel like you are powerful and if you still feel like you are injecting a part of yourself. So again, in my role, I often have to be in spaces like conferences and, you know, quite kind of uptight kind of spaces. And the way I kind of push against that, I mean, I spoke about the hair thing a minute ago, but the way I push against that now is that when I have to wear a suit, it's going to be a colourful one. Like, it's going to be bright orange, it's going to be like bright red, it's going to be bright blue, like I'm going to wear a fun head wrap, like, and that is me kind of playing the game. Okay, I'm doing your business casual, I'm doing your smart business wear, I'll still be wearing some trainers because like I do not own a pair of heels or smart shoes. And like, but having the color involved in it, it feels like it's still a bit of me. So I'm playing that game with myself. I'm doing that deal with myself where I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna just like wear what I want exactly, but I'm gonna play your rules and also still represent myself. And I think when you still feel that power, then you've won, basically.
That's awesome. DiDi, what about for you?
This one's hard. Strictly because Fish knows our surrounding, our environment. As an athlete, we're told to be one way and to not show vulnerability and not show emotion. And I feel like I am the complete opposite of that. Um, when I'm upset, you see it, you can tell. In games, you can tell when I'm upset, you can tell when I'm hyping people up. But I think that right there is me. I'm just so passionate about the game that I'm not okay with something that's 50%, 70%. It needs to be 100%. Um, so it's just like when people do something good, I'm going to hype them up. When I make a great save, you'll see me do a little fist bump or something because I'm just hyped up for that save. And I think energy goes a long way. And it carries on to one person and one person, one person. So for me, I think it's the emotion. I'm different because of how emotional I am in a game.
That's awesome. Fish, what about for you?
I think I've, it's an interesting perspective you have, Liz, and I think I can bring more of that into my life because I think I've been in more of like, I don't want to go into the space if I don't like that space or if I don't fit that, or if I like, even with, I never thought of doing an on-camera job for like a club like this, and to all the credit of our amazing team and our family here at the Angel City and my boss of like saying, we're gonna put Fish on camera, and she lives in a van, and or they live in a van, and they're like, you're not gonna have fresh hair every day, and things like that. Like, she gave me eye cream just to like put some lotion on sometimes, but um, I think there's also a part to challenging that fake it till you make it, and what do you have to fake, or can you just be your authentic self? And maybe you're gonna push the boundaries a little bit, but they'll feel that authenticity and they'll feel that energy to what you're speaking about, DiDi, and that's what connects and that's what gets you into that space. And it may be different from what's been in there before, but uh, yeah, I think I lean the harder way, and this is me. Like, this is Fish. Like, I like dressing up, so I'll dress up and have some swagger to it, but I definitely won't dress in a way that I don't feel right in. Um,
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, that
yeah.
all three just like super powerful and so interesting to hear, you know, just the journey that each of you have been on and where there's similarities, like each of us coming from like different places and also the things that make us unique. It's really powerful and interesting and cool. Well, so want to ask the overarching broad question. So just thinking, because everybody likes numbers. So scale 1 to 100, 1 being total phony, 100 being your true authentic self. Where would you rank yourself in this moment, and why would you rank yourself that? Liz,
Big
why don't we
question.
start with you?
Big question. I mean, in this
Come with them hard.
in this exact moment, I'd rate myself 100 because you're literally in my living room with me, and it feels like we're just having like a gorgeous chat with like wonderful friends. I'm like, we should get the coffee up. I mean, not for me at 10:30 at night, but we should, it feels like I'm just hanging out with you all.
Tea.
This,
We'll grab you the tea.
yeah, tea, yeah. This moment of my life. I'd say that I strive to be in the high 90s as much as possible. I think, who I am. One thing that I like to say about myself is that who you get on social media of me is pretty much me in real life. Like, there's not really any difference between the two. The only difference is probably on the football pitch where I probably get like a little bit like, yeah, spirited, should we say? That's what we're going to do.
That's
But
fair.
it's been a long way to get there, and there are definitely times where I probably slip right down there, or definitely feel like a total phony for sure. But yeah, I think I'm happy to say that I'm pitching at those high 90s as much as I can.
Well, and Liz, I'm curious, like, what work did it take to get you to this place?
Gosh, a few relationships here and there that have been and gone. Thank you.
Fair.
That probably helped. Coming out for sure. Doing some like deep work with my mum, and reconnecting with her as adults. Like when you realize that your parents are actually just adults, it's terrifying because apparently we're all adults now, and that is terrifying. So like a lot of that kind of stuff. I like to read, people like Audre Lorde or like Maya Angelou or like Bell Hooks, those writers that are all kind of black feminists or queer feminists as well, have led me to like a school of thought that gives me permission, I should say, to connect to my authentic self. But I think it's just experiences as you go through life, right? Like just they make you who you are, and you can either choose to respond to them and be fearful and retreat back into yourself, or take every experience and churn it back out as love. And that's what I try and do as much as possible. So, yeah.
I love that. Thank you. Fish, what about for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think striving for the high 90s is like a daily thing. Of course, we evolve. Like, a month ago, I was Fish Megan. I went by Megan Fish, and her, and even then I would have said high 90s because at that moment, that's what I felt. I was, truly myself. But I think as we stay curious about ourselves and each other, things change. You change, and your understanding of yourself changes. But for me, what kind of helped catalyze it was I started meditating in college. My mom introduced me to it. And at first it was for performance. I wanted to like get my mindset right on the field. But it was the first time I just stopped to listen, like just try not to listen to anything and to just stop. And I started to hear that voice that I like muted way further back. And so I think, whether it's meditating or just going on a walk or different ways to just stop and be with yourself and ask questions that you don't get to in the normal run of life. Um, that's the way to kind of stay honest with yourself and just check in and to keep yourself in those high 90s, I think. Just continuously talking to yourself.
Thank you. DiDi, where would you rank yourself, and what's got you there?
Because of what both Liz and Fish said, I'm going to be in the 80s because of we're always evolving and changing. And I would say because I'm still young at 30, I have plenty of more life to live, that I feel like something else is going to happen where I'm going to completely have to change. My dad passing away was a big pivotal moment for me. My soccer career of 10 years has been a constant growth game physically and the big one mentally. So I'm gonna leave a lot of wiggle room because I feel like we're always gonna be evolving and changing, including tomorrow. I'll probably evolve some way tomorrow.
It's beautiful.
I hope so, though, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like growing, like that's like one of the best things to do in life is just to
Yeah.
keep evolving, like finding your best self. And your best self tomorrow might be very different from your best self in a week, but like that's why you keep the journey. Well, thank you both, or thank you all. I mean, this has been an incredible conversation. I'm curious, is there anything that anybody wants to drive home to those who are listening?
I just want to say thank you to everyone who may see this with, especially if you're part of the Angel City community. Like the reception that I've felt from reclaiming myself has been beautiful. I met a fan the other day at a concert, and she referred to me as, "Oh, you're that chick for Angel City." And then the next day was in my DMs because she realized and she apologized. Like it was just from that experience to people on our team at work, saying, "How can I advocate for you in this situation?" Like it's people. It's people. It comes to people, and just surround yourself with people who see you and validate you and support you, because that's the best way to continue evolving along with your true self, for sure.
Yeah, I would add to that. Most of my Instagram posts, I always end it with "stay weird." And it seems to be a trend and people are hopping on the bandwagon. And I've always been that way. Just stay weird, which literally means be you, be weird, because us goalkeepers are a tad odd. And I love it.
Like odd but essential. Like
Yeah.
I want a crazy goalkeeper in the back. I don't
Like,
want
Yeah.
one
pretty
that's just gonna be
cool.
like,
Yeah.
The thing is, everyone seems to gravitate towards us. It's weird. So stay weird.
Liz, do you have any parting words?
Yeah, I kind of don't know how to follow that. I love that. All our goalkeepers are like the sickest, most awesome people, and like you're right. Yeah, stay weird. That's great. Yeah, I mean, I guess like as we've said already this evening, I think keep learning, keep your eyes open. You know, I think that how you interact with people is really, really important and really, really powerful. And when you make a mistake or when you mess up, like you just told that little story there, Fish, like being able to apologize and move on and just learn from it is so, so important. And equally, not taking yourself too seriously, I think, is one of the greatest gifts that we can give each other in the world. So, yeah, stay weird, I guess.
That's amazing. Thank you.
I see
Well,
a
so I
shirt
want to give
coming.
everybody. Oh, stay weird.
Mhm.
Like make that happen.
Yeah.
See, it's already happening on this call.
Now we just gotta like manifest it, like
Yep.
see it hit the streets. I love it. Well, thank you, everyone. I want to give you a chance if there's anything you want to plug. DiDi, do you have anything?
I mean, I got my photography business and I will be launching my prints soon. And I'm not saying like prints as in these little babies. Like I am blowing this up. Like I just bought one for myself. It's a 40 by something. So this baby is huge. So be on the lookout. I am dropping my prints and launching my website soon.
Awesome. We'll definitely keep an eye out for that.
Yeah.
Liz, how about for you?
Yeah, I mean, follow the work of Stonewall UK. You can find us on all social media. And I would say, you know, we are at our core a human rights organisation, and there is a global attack on human rights right now, especially in the States. So we are connected in that struggle, and we send so much solidarity for the fight that is happening over there because we know it's on our doorstep in Europe. So, yeah, we're standing with you and solidarity for everything that is happening right now as well.
Fish, what do you got?
I'm gonna be at all these Angel City games coming up, so you better come join us. That's my plug. Come hang out with the fam. We're ready for you.
I'll see you there.
We'll hang out by the goal. We'll be weird out by the
Yeah.
goal.
Yeah.
That's it. You know it.
Get one of your pictures. We'll just like be hanging out there.
Stay weird.
40 by something in the back. Well, so then speaking of promos, so Birdies has the Game Changer, which is a limited edition version of the Swift that rocks Angel City's official colors and our emblem. This shoe is ready to inspire, support, and empower you to be a game changer. So shop at birdies.com, angelcity.com, and also go check out the Birdies Abbott Community Store. Thanks.
Sweet.
Talk to you all soon.
Chris.
Thanks so much for this.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.
Thank you. As always, stay weird.